our Reverend Joanne Boruck, and she is going to talk about the silk purse. Reverend Joanne.
Thank you, Reverend Tress.
You're welcome.
What? What? Where are you going?
Yay!
Thank you.
Okay.
That's my reward for coming up here. Get a hug from Tress. Holy smokes, look at the beauty out there. You guys, too. Pretty good looking. When I was sitting there, I opened my iPad. It was 11:11. I says to Linda, "It's 11:11." She said, "Oh," and the song was on 1:11. So, good morning, enlightened beings. What was I thinking? Good morning, beautiful. Oh, beautiful, enlightened beings. Thank you so much for being here. I turn this sideways because then the writing gets bigger. Thank you for being here in body, in mind, and in spirit. And right now, I invite you to join me as I speak these words of affirmative prayer. If you take a deep breath, that breath goes into that holy place within your heart center. In the vastness of divine spirit, I recognize a pulsating essence that flows through all creation. A cosmic dance of light and love, for each breath becomes a prayer, and every heart is a vessel for the divine. I stand united with the God that weaves us together in the sacred web of life. As I inhale, I feel the power of the universe. As I exhale, I share its peace with my enlightened community. I realize the calling that whispers in my soul to become a beacon, to be a vessel of powerful light, to enlighten, to uplift, to heal, to emit and dissipate the shadows of worry, to speak words of strength. I embrace enlightenment. With gratitude and thanks for the fulfillment of my mission, of each mission here, of each voice, of each heart that opens, the energy of spirit flows. A powerful current of healing and grace flows. And so I release my intention. I remain in the flow. I release it into the law, trusting the unfolding. And I breathe deeply, knowing that my voice flows like a river to nurture the land, to heal and soothe others on their weary day. And in this quiet moment of reflection and enlightenment, let us bring to mind those we pray for today. Today I pray for my sisters, for my family, and for all those who need to know that they are loved. The words we speak today are for those who need to know they are loved. Thank you. Well, here it is, the end of December. Oh, yeah, it's the end of November. Wouldn't that be nice if we just skip right through all that? I'm not looking forward to December. There's some things I'm looking forward to and some things I'm not looking forward to, and I'm going to talk about that. So here it is, the end of November. And November was a time of gratitude and reflection. And so this morning I want to welcome you to my autobiography. I always thought if I write a book It's going to be called the silk purse. And I don't know if that's going to happen, so this is my 20-minute autobiography. I really was reflecting this month on gratitude, and there's lots happening in my life. And I remembered what my mom said to me when I get down. She said to me, Joanne, you could make a silk purse out of a sow's ear. Well, you know, I resonated that for 70 years, not really understanding the implication of what that meant. So today I want to expand on what that means, the truth behind it, how it resonates with science of mind that says life is a mirror and reflects back to you what you think into it. So today I want to use this one other word. I really like it. It's called alchemy. And alchemy is what we do. It's when we make something out of something else. And I talked a few weeks ago about silver, about the refiner of silver, and in the Bible how he talked about he stared at the silver in the fire until it was completely refined. And he was asked, how do you know when it's refined? And the silversmith said, when I can see my reflection. So that was one thing that I wanted to tell you is, if you're walking through a fire, keep walking until you find yourself. So that's one thing I wanted to talk about. And the other thing, so that's silver, but what about gold? That's the other precious metal. Well, gold is a euphemism too. You know, you don't know gold's in that rock. You see a little vein of it, and you think, that could be gold. And then, you know, somebody mines it, and they open that vein, and they find so much gold. But it's still in the rock. Until you chip away the rock, you can't find the gold. I really believe what Ernest Holmes says, nature is our greatest teacher. So we can hold the silver to the fire, and we can chip away until we find the gold. You know, this morning I want to inspire you to do something out of something you already have in your life. I'm going to tell you some stories, but I know stories are just living proof of what is possible. I always try to keep in mind that people are moved by inspiration, not information. So I hope that there's something in here that moves you to look for your gold, to look for your silk, to make yourself a silk purse. And there's a couple of things I'm going to tell you about. One of them is a medieval finding that was found thousands of years ago, and it's an example of a sow's ear. And you know, really, when I was researching this, where did I have that? Okay, never mind, I'm going to get there. They found a silk purse from a sow's ear. And it wasn't changing what is, but it was forming it from what was. So I'm going to tell you about that. And then I'm going to tell you about a chemist who used alchemy to change the hair on a sow's ear into silk and made a purse. And not really about the silk purse, but about the ability to change something into something magnificent. I'm going to tell you a story about a prisoner who was an amazing painter. He brought all his paints to prison, but no, he didn't have anything to paint on. So I'm going to tell you what he painted and how it made him $1 million. So I encourage you and I challenge you at this time of year, whether it's a joyful time, a stressful time, a time of grief, a time of abundance, to take what's yours and transform it into something that's meaningful. And I can't tell you enough how much I learn when I do research for my talks. Something inside me changes. Just quietly. You know, you can't really see it on the outside, but something inside changes. So the first thing I did, I thought, I'm going to research what that phrase is. You can turn a silk purse into a sow's ear. Do you know what I found out? It was never quoted Everything I quoted says you can't make a silk purse out of a sow's ear. That's the quote. But in some way, my mother turned that around for me because it didn't matter what was happening, I could always find something better. And so, she just, sometimes I'm sure it infuriated her because she would tell me something that was terrible, and I was like, and I'm going to tell you about one example. There was a big fire behind our house, and my mom was devastated. She said, "Look at that terrible fire." I said, "Mom, remember Dad used to burn that hill, and the next year we had the most beautiful green grass. I think that fire's here so we can remember what Dad did. Next year we're going to have green grass." So when I was researching that, they never said you can. It only says you can't make a silk purse out of a sow's ear. Then I thought, oh yeah? Well, I'm going to research deeper, and I'm going to find out somebody must have done it because there's only one mine. So where'd my mom get that idea from? And I found these examples of somebody that made a silk purse out of a sow's ear. And even in the Bible, they talk about that. The message that you can do it. It just takes faith. It takes a change of mind. And it is a reminder that you can't say one thing and expect something else. I had this saying written in my book because I always have sayings I like to use. And as I was writing it, Peter's reading spiritual economics, and he says to me, "Oh, you took that out of spiritual economics." So I guess I got to fess up. I didn't make it up. It's not mine. Spiritual economics says, stop saying I'm exhausted, I'm unlucky, and I can't do this, and start saying I'm resting and recharging. I'm learning new ways, and I'm getting stronger every day. Your mind listens when you speak. And every word plants a seed in your life. Speak negatively and you'll feel really heavy. But speak belief and you'll feel yourself rise. So you're not just talking. When you're talking, you're creating. And you're the master of your creation. So be careful what you speak to yourself. Again, back to my mom, when I learned this philosophy, I really felt like my mother saw something in me. And the second thing my mother did was she gave me a second name called Faith. I didn't have a whole bunch of it for a lot of years, but my mother was planting those seeds, and for her to recognize my ability to speak affirmative prayer all the time, and then I learned this philosophy, I'm like, wow, we really are one. We're connected by one thread. And she never knew you can't make a silk purse out of a sow's ear because she thought I could. So if I can, then somebody else can. So the medieval story talks about they found a silk purse. Do you know when you open a sow's ear, it's 2 layers. And on the inside, you can use it to store stuff. Well, they found some medieval ones that were covered in silk, and the inside was a pig's ear, and one had silver, and one had gold. Now, it was probably at least 2,000 years old and looked like the day they found it, and it's in the Smithsonian. And it was Horatio Bond that found that. In the Middle Ages, imagine that. The sow's ear, they said, was as soft and luscious as the silk that was on the outside of it. So they put the silk on the outside of the ear, and the ear soaked up the beauty of that silk. I talked about in the Bible, they talk about worry and changing things. In Matthew 6:13 it says, "Therefore do not worry, saying, what shall we eat, or what shall we drink, or what shall we wear? For we all strive after these things, and Creator knows what you need." One thing the Bible says is, "Seek ye first the kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be added up onto you. And I know that sounds super, super religious, but we can transform that phrase to inspire us. Well, we know the kingdom is within. So the message in that is the answer is not outside of us, it's inside of us. Seek first your inner kingdom, and all that you need, all that you know, will be added when you connect with yourself. It's not in a book, but they're good. It's not in a class, but they're good. Those are just one way to the path of truth. Your inner truth is waiting for you to recognize the kingdom within. And as we are ready to receive, I have such a present for you guys. Ursula is going to come up and we're going to learn a song. It's called I Am Open to Receive. Come on up. And this is an action song. And we've got to open our heart in order to receive. Ursula was telling me a story about this lady she follows on YouTube, and she's kind of her mentor, and she lives in Mexico. And she was telling them about the books that changed her life. And she said, I'm not going to tell you the book right away. I'm going to tell you the number one book. And then, I don't know, was that last week you saw that, Ursula? Yes. She said to her, okay, I'm going to show you the book that changed my life. The most important one. She pulled out this book that was tattered, the pages were falling out. It was The Science of Mind. And when Ursula and Floyd started coming here, they always said, I just knew this truth already. I just love it here. Floyd says every week, I love it here. It's a great place because they recognize that one truth. Now, you might know who sang this song because she didn't write it, but she saw it. And when she starts, we are going to, I hope you join me. You'll probably have to stand like stagger, somebody in front and somebody in back, and it says, I am open to receive. Everything good has come to me. And that's the whole chorus. And isn't that good? The music, the heater just shut off. Okay, what do you want to add about that song?
Testing, can you hear me? I heard it once, and the first thing I thought was, it belongs, it needs to be sang here in this center. It just really resonated with me. And someone that I was watching, she said there's 5 books that changed my life. Now she has 300,000 followers in 2 months, and she talks about her life and how independent she is. And she said, I will start, the last one is the most important one. And it's like my Bible, and she showed at the end, she said, this is the book, Science of Mind, and it was in pieces. And she said, it's just the only book that I took from Los Angeles, and she bought land in Mexico and just became, she said, I just connected with my power, and this is the book that changed my life. And it's the only book that I brought with me. Woohoo!
They should be flying off the shelves after this.
So I heard this on her playlist. She does this groove dance thing. And I just heard it, and I recorded it, and I thought, I sent her some information as far as the writer and all that. I didn't get any, so I didn't write this one. I want to make sure everyone knows that, but I love it, and here it is. All things good come to me. I hope it's going to be loud enough.
Maybe that's all we have to do to transform from one thing to another. I am open to receive. All things good come to me. Thank you. And just like I told you, people have been transforming sow's ears into silk purses, metaphorically, spiritually, and physically. I want to tell you this true story, and this one's about an artist. His name was Jesse Crimes. And he has a painting called Apocalypton. And he was falsely accused and thrown in prison. He started out as a, what do they call it when you paint on walls and you're not supposed to? Graffiti. He started out as a graffiti artist, and he also painted other paintings. And he was falsely accused because he was out in the dark, and so he was in prison. And he had all his brushes and his paints. And one day, he was just desperate to be creative, and he says to the guard, "Do you have something I can paint on?" Well, the guard thought, "Oh yeah, I'm not giving you anything good." And he found this oily rag, and he said to him, "Here, see what you can do with that." Well, that man took that oily rag, and he painted his own concept of Jesus' face on that oily rag. And he thought he'd show it first to the man who'd given him the dirty rag. And when that man saw that picture, he was moved to tears. That painting is very, very famous. Joyce, have you heard about that painting? Hey? Oh, I'm going to look it up. Now, if one man can take an old soiled rag and make a masterpiece, just think what you can do with your artist paints, whether they're words, deeds, paintings, music. You are the master. I guess what that means to me is no matter what circumstances you're in, now or have been, you are the master of your own creation. So be creative. Be a transformer. Because silk is like words woven by the hands of the master, and you are the master. So I told you about the medieval purse that's split in half, and I told you about the fellow who did the painting, and this last one is a true event too. There was a research chemist called Arthur Little, and he must have been really took with that phrase, "You can't make a silk purse out of a sow's ear," because in 1921 he decided he was going to see if he could really do it. So he asked people to bring him sow's ears, and I guess he got hundreds of them. And so he took those ears and he used his science, his knowledge of science, to take every hair off those ears and to treat them with some kind of a chemical and turn those hairs into silk. And he made a silk purse out of a sow's ear. There's one of them at the Smithsonian as well. So those are just one of the few things that come to light about how scientifically we've moved to something spiritually. We move from scientific proof to physical faith, the blending of science and spirituality. That's our philosophy. We are metaphysicians. I love that word. It sounds like I should be able to charge a lot of money. I'm a metaphysician. I work with science, but I work with the science of mind. And now I'd like to ask Peter to come up and hand out something. Because as I was thinking about this silk and how important it is to remember that our words are silk, that silk creates things. And so Peter has I have some packages with gold silk in them. And I want you to take them home and just stick them somewhere. I'm going to put mine on my rearview mirror, just my gold piece of silk, to remind me that there's silk inside of me, there's gold inside of me. My words are gold. My words are silk. And I can create anything I want. And once you have them in your hands, they're all different sizes. Some might fit your wrists, maybe not. I like metaphors. I like looking and finding out what they did with that silk purse so I can visualize it in my mind. And so when I had this thread of gold, this gold cord, it reminded me of the vein of gold that's in the rock that you have to find. So now that you have that, I invite you to just hold it between your palms and allow yourself to go to a place of peace and calm. Can I have one, Peter? Some of them turned out to look like a heart. So as we hold this, know with loving thanks I speak this truth. This is my scientific spiritual mind treatment to turn anything into silk. And I speak this truth for me and anyone who claims it as their truth. There is one creator, one divine spirit, one loving intelligence I call God. Collectively, we are one in spirit. This oneness expresses as loving kindness, unconditional acceptance, courage, and strength. All that God is, I am. I know and feel the golden thread of light and love flowing through each of us, connecting us in our heart center. This golden silk thread reminds me of my infinite potential to create, to manifest, and yes, sometimes to reinvent my experience by changing my thoughts and beliefs. In the calm moments of my life, I connect with my divine presence in words, in actions, and deeds. I listen for guidance and I act on it. I am so very grateful for this truth, for Ernest Holmes, for his courage to step forward with his ideas, for the center, for my family and friends. I feel the golden thread of connection stronger every day. Each person on my journey sees the silk purse of divinity. I let go, knowing that this is acted upon in the law of mind. The law acts as my words and my thoughts and returns to me completed. And together we say, and so it is. I am Reverend Joanne, faith, peace, and love, Boruck. The prosperity of gold and the weaving of silk is your true identity. Have a beautiful week. I love you, and thank you.